Hi, this is Carl Leopson at the University of Arizona, and this is another short video in the series on visual analysis and graphing of data in single subject research designs. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to move the nearly completed multiple baseline graphs over and finish them in another program like Microsoft Word. One reason we do that is because in Excel, it's kind of difficult to do all the drawing and labeling that we need and keep it consistent and not have it kind of move around and get odd. It just seems to be easier to do in some other programs. In this case, we're going to use Word. So we're going to select the chart area of the upper graph, select the chart area of the lower graph, and you see I have them all prepared. I have the breaks in the proper places, and I've disconnected all of the data points for the maintenance data. And I'm going to hit the Shift key and also then select the lower graph. So it's select the upper, hold the Shift key, and let you select another. And that's the way it works on a Macintosh computer. Then I'm going to copy that whole thing. I'm going to take it to an open Word document. And one thing I'm going to do when I get to Word is I'm going to add some headspace, which means I am going to add at least one line above. That gives me space to move. If you don't do that, you may find yourself stuck and not able to add any text where you need to. So the next thing we're going to do is paste. And there are both of our graphs. And now it's just a matter of cleaning up. So we're going to do a few things. One is we don't need it to say sessions under each of our graphs, so we're going to get rid of one of them. You can see it grows that graph a little bit. We want to click on the plot area and shrink it back down just slightly. All right. Then the next thing we're going to do is add phase lines. So what we do is we click off of the charts. If you highlight them, you'll be drawing inside of these charts. You want to be drawing over top of them. So what we do is we make sure neither one of them is selected. We select shape, we get the line, and we draw a line between the 5th and 6th, right there. Right. And actually I think I ended up with the line in the chart because I started inside the chart, so I'm going to try that again. Click off of it. I'm going to grab a line. I'm going to start outside of the chart between the 5th and 6th. I can move it around if I need to. There it is, right there. I'm going to copy that line and paste it. That might be the simplest way to do this. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to drag it into place on the lower graph between the 10th and 11th point. One thing you can do to get kind of finer control of your graph in Word, of your line when you move objects, I think you hold down the command key and you can move it a little more carefully. Finally, we need to connect these two, so we're going to create one more line connecting these two. Then we're going to hold down the Shift key and we're going to select all three lines, and we're going to format them as objects, and we're going to change them to black lines. We're going to make them a little smaller. This one's just a little short. You know what? Won't always be perfect. Make it just as long as we want. Got a little bit, lift it up a little bit there. There we go. That's just about perfect. We don't want this one this long. We don't want to be covering up the sessions. Let's move that sessions label a little bit so it's out of the way. Let's shorten this line now so that and I'm holding down the command key so that it doesn't get kind of weird on me and moving it too much. Next we want to do, so those are our lines that show how we are moving, how our baseline is moving. So here's baseline, and here's intervention phase. Baseline here, intervention phase here on the second graph. We are going to need to create a couple of text boxes to show that that's the case. And this is baseline. Move that down where it needs to be. We're going to undo that because I did that wrong. We actually need to put these inside of our graph, so we need to click on the chart area. And we're going to put our text box inside. And it's going to say baseline. And then we're going to hold down the command, the shift key, and make a copy of it. And, whoops, drag it back for a moment. Hold down the option, command and shift keys, and drag over a copy of it. And say, or you can just create one brand new. It's intervention. Shorten this line just a touch so it doesn't look so odd, out of place, hanging out there. Next thing we want to do is add some labels so that we know whose graph is whose. Let's see, this is moved around a little bit. I think I moved it instead of shortening it. There we go. You have to futz with these a little bit. What am I going to put? I'm going to put some labels in here. Let's look back and see. I think it was child initiated and peer initiated. Generally what's done on multiple baseline graphs like these, or one good way to do it is to create a text box and point folks, instead of having a legend, point them to your data. So this is child initiation. And we're going to, we'll grab a shape, we'll grab a line that is an arrow and say that's these. And we're going to format that shape because we keep everything in black and white. And we're going to make it a little skinnier so it doesn't stand out too much. And we're going to add another text box that says peer, oops, keep that consistent, we'll say peer initiation. And again, we'll go get a, oops, make that big enough so we can see it. Move it up a little bit. Let's go get an arrow. We'll point to the data points that represent peer-initiated behavior. Right. And let's highlight, let's format that, make it black, make it about the right size so it looks about right. Then we need to also drop some text box labels in here to show whose data is whose. I think this is Emma. And this is Fred down here. Remember, we need to click inside the chart to keep our text box in the chart. So what have we done? We've copied our charts in. We've added some headspace before we started. We pasted, we had to resize just a touch. We added phase lines. We added phase titles, baseline intervention. We added data labels and arrows. And we added student labels. We haven't hidden the lower vertical axis. This is, if you've been wondering what we're going to do here, it's really not too fancy. Here's what we do. We click inside the chart area. We grab a rectangular shape. We draw over top of a shape that will fit just over top. We format that shape. We say that we want no shadow. We want a white line and a white fill. And it basically hides it on a white piece of paper. Same thing down below. And if it's not the right size, you can, there we go, we'll resize it just a little bit to make sure everything's covered the way it ought to be. There we go. And you would do the same thing down below. See, it didn't look like that -10 was never there. So those are the basic ways to finish off a graph. What I might do with this next is turn it into a PDF, and I might work on it further in Photoshop if I were sending this into a publisher. But a PDF that is then cropped and pulled back into Word as a document, as a picture, is one of the best ways to maintain some of the quality without things getting a little wonky as it changes from one person to another. So try that out with either this graph or another graph, some of this other data that we have, and try finishing off a graph in Microsoft Word or in some other software program that you choose to use.